Hello, Reverend Kelly here, and today we're going to talk about the curse of Canaan. And I'm just going to assume here that people that have come to this video are kind of somewhat a little bit familiar with the curse of Canaan. And the reason I say that is because there's really just a little bit spoken of the aspect of it that I'm going to discuss here. And the aspect that I'm going to discuss here is what really was the curse of Canaan? And I guess I'll just blurt it out for you. The curse of Canaan was an act of magic, more particularly black magic. You know, some people they want to try to differentiate white magic, black magic. Okay, how about this? Sympathetic magic. That's another form of magic that has traditionally been used by the Hebrews. But seeing as the evilness and the wickedness and the vileness that's connected just with the way that this type of magic is performed, it is best to be called black magic. Now, I'm going to correlate to you with the curse of Canaan into a more modern time of what is known as the papal bulls. That's P-A-P-A-L. That's reference to a curse or a blessing or an order put forth by the Pope of the Catholic Church. Now these items, you can research what a papal bull is. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you do research what a papal bull is. And you research more specifically about how a papal bull was traditionally created. And it was a traditional creation of a human sacrifice. More specifically, a child sacrifice. I believe child sacrifices were always considered to be the most important, because one thing that was extremely vile about all these people is they had this insatiable appetite for innocent victims. I haven't quite researched and narrowed it really down as to why that they prefer innocent victims, other than they're evil cowards. They're evil cowards. They're sneaks. They're corruption. That's what they are. They get in somewhere and they corrupt it, so they're a sneak. So, you know, they can be within the innocent and then strike. And actually, that's how Israel became Israel in the land of Canaan. Because it was actually the land of Canaan right through this time that they call it Israel. And their so-called prophets weren't prophets at all. They were terrorists. They were terrorists, and they infiltrated, like I said, they corrupted, they infiltrated to terrorize, till they got the opportunity where they could strike. And this is how they ruled. This is how they ruled. They ruled with this terrorism and this child sacrifice of the innocent. And that would put everybody in their place, because nobody wanted to be on that sacrifice list that the religious people came up with. You know, like I'm speaking out now, if you were to speak out like that in the nation of Israel, probably in the current nation of Israel also, but if you were to speak out in ancient Israel, there is no doubt that you would be on the sacrifice list. Because that's how those wicked, evil, vile, satanic people behaved, and that's how they governed. And that's also why they were destroyed. They were destroyed and exiled. Matter of fact, they were destroyed and exiled so successfully that the people who are descendants of them don't even know that they are. The majority of people whose ancestors are from the ancient tribes of Israel do not even know they have that connection. That's how successful it was. Because you know something? They were slaves to it. And that's what people are not understanding. They were slaves to Israel. the majority, overwhelming majority of the population of the ancient tribes of Israel were slaves. Now, more specifically, the people who are minorities that have recently discovered that their ancestors are from the ancient tribes of Israel, and they're all excited about it because they think that they're entitled to some kind of inheritance, and that's what motivates them. And they get all mad and they say, well, the Europeans enslaved us and the people in America enslaved us. You people were slaves in your own tribes. Your own government enslaved you through terrorism. All the things that you read about Willie Lynch and the Willie Lynch letter and the way that slaves were treated, and they were supposed to be treated like animals, were the ways that your ancient forefathers were treated by their government. So all you people that are out there bragging, saying, we're Israelites, and thinking, well, we're entitled to an inheritance, and that's really what they're all about. Oh boy, yeah, we're going to get something, we're going to get something, we're going to get something. We're going to get reparations for our bad treatment. Are you going to get reparations from your so-called nation, Israel? Are you going to get reparations from Israel? Because what it is you're claiming to be and what it is that you're claiming that you want to come back again was the problem, not the solution. But anyhow, I'm getting off course here. The curse of Canaan. Now, hey, we're talking about family, okay? All from the same group. Noah's children. We're talking about Shem, which is actually pronounced more like Sham or Shame. Shame is actually the best pronunciation of it. We're talking about Shem, Japheth, and we're talking about Ham. Now, Ham, the way the story goes, if you read the ancient Hebrew and you read the traditional ways that the Hebrews have looked at this, they are kind of disputing about what's going on, but really what they're trying to do is cover it all up. They're playing the part of shame. They're shame and trying to cover things up, okay? This is what you don't understand, which is still in our culture and still in our language today, is shame. Okay? And that person named Shem covered Noah in shame. Okay? Shame covered him, but he put a covering over him, right? Didn't he put a blanket or a cloth or whatever it was? I forget exactly what it was that they said, but they covered him. Okay? So that would disguise what had happened. And it supposedly was to cover his nakedness. Well, anybody that studies the ancient Hebrew cultures knows what they were talking about, which covering a person's nakedness or seeing a person's nakedness was reference to sexual actions. And what the more educated people in this subject talk about is that Ham emasculated his father, and his father Noah got pissed because not only did Ham do that, but he bragged about it to his brothers. So he was like pissed. He's pissed at his son. Okay, his son Ham. But did he curse his son Ham? So the stories go in the scripture. That's what this subject is about. What did Noah really do? Well, what you've been told and what's in the scriptures should be enough. If you know about the ancient culture, it should be enough for you to be able to deduct the reasoning and figure it out, because that's what these so-called educated experts have been doing. And that's how they come up with that Ham emasculated his father. Some think that, well, maybe he castrated him. Because, you know, they lean towards the castration because they don't want to admit. They want to stick with trying to put a cloak over it because there's shame. Shame shows up and he covers it over. So they're taking that attitude that they want to cover over what really happened because they don't want people to know how evil and wicked and vile that their group has been, and how deceptive. even though all the scriptures continually reinforce and tell you that it's a nation and that it's a group of deceptive people right from the start. They're evil. They're animals. They're called goy. Okay? They're called goy, which means pack of animals. And they're constantly, and this, this is kind of a pet peeve for me. Okay, I find it very irritating because, okay, I'm going to take the current nation of Israel and Palestine right now, okay? Now, the Israelis in there, they'll point at the Palestinians and say, look at the goy, the goyim, and they'll point at them, and the Palestinians are disarmed, okay? So they're pretty vulnerable victims to these Israeli terrorists. And they'll say, they're just animals, they deserve to be treated this way because they're goy, and goy are animals. But their scriptures clearly states that Israel are a group of goy. Clearly in the Hebrew writings it states that Israelis are goy. So let's get that right. So it's like an insult, okay? You got the Israelis insulting the Palestinians. You're goy, you're goy. It's like two family groups saying fuck you, back and forth. Okay? Because they were both packs of animals, and that's what the scripture tells you. They were warring packs of animals. That's what they were. But back to this curse thing that we're talking about, the curse of Canaan. Why was Canaan cursed? Well, if you can count, and you know that Canaan was the fourth son, and you can see in that story that Noah blessed Shem. First, he blessed Shem first. He gave a blessing to Shem because Shem came in and hid him and cloaked him. Okay? Shem didn't expose him. He also blessed Japheth. That's two. That's two blessings, right? And then the third thing he did was curse Canaan. Canaan was the fourth son. So if you read about the papal bulls and you know how those done, what Noah did was he sacrificed 3 of his grandchildren to do 2 blessings and a curse. The same way a papal bull is done, it is black magic is what they were doing, or just plain old magic, okay? You people don't want to recognize that it's evil and wicked and vile to do it, so just, realize it was magic is what they were doing. And in this whole thing of magic, when they do what they do, their whole mentality and thoughts is that they're going to bring whatever blessing or curse that they do, they're going to bring it to life because they're stealing the soul of that innocent person. That's what they're doing. They're attaching this blessing or curse to the soul of the innocent person is what they think they're doing. That's not really what happens. Let's get that straight. That's not really what happens. What really happens is they're terrorizing everybody that they're governing. They know what's going on. Nobody wants that to happen with them. So they continue on and they're like bobblehead dolls. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, to the head leader because they could be next. And that's what has really traditionally happened because Israel has always been a nation of terrorists. But back to this story about Canaan. Canaan's first 3 brothers were murdered. They were skinned. Their skin was tanned just like it was animal hide. And then these blessings, 2 blessings, 1 on each, done to each person. So, you get the first son of Ham murdered. Okay? He was skinned. His skin was tanned. And then it was written on the blessing for Shem. Then the second son of Ham was murdered, skinned, his skin was tanned, and another blessing was written out for Japheth. Then the third son of Ham was murdered, skinned, his hide, I shouldn't say hide because that sounds more like an animal, his skin was tanned, and then written on a curse for the last one that's left. See, now you understand, now you should understand how it works. Because the fourth son, Canaan, was alive. So the fourth son, Canaan, witnessed his first brother, his second brother, his third brother, all murdered, all skinned and tanned, and then writings on it. Okay? So they got their writings. You know, Shem got his blessing there. He's holding up his skin blessing from the first son. And the second one, Japhet, has his skin blessing from the second son. And then the third one, Ham, he has the curse on him. So who knows, maybe Noah holds that one. Probably not. Probably Ham held it. Ham was even in on it. See, that's the despicable and disgusting thing about it is all the family members are in on that kind of thing, and they're okay with it. And they've always been okay with it because they're just as evil and wicked and nasty and vile. So I think it's fair to say that Ham was in on it. He certainly did whatever action that supposedly caused whatever caused there, at least so the writings say. Whether they're even true or not, anybody who's educated enough and knows what it was they were up to and what it was that they were truly doing would know and understand and comprehend what I'm saying is true. Even those people that don't believe that these people were involved in magic can understand the psychological effect that would have occurred on the fourth son by seeing his three siblings, his three brothers, murdered, their skins tanned, and writings put on them to make these writings. But again, if you research the papal bulls, that's what those are too, and that's how those were done. And again, I'm going to tell you again, that magic doesn't work. Okay? That magic doesn't work. What it is, and as we know, is, and always was, and always will be, terrorism. And it's terrorism against the citizens or the people that are being governed. And in this case we're talking about were the people being governed by Noah or Noach. So anyhow, I hope you learned something out of this. I hope you understand what has happened. And I got just, too many people that are living in the land of denial and back down in the lower lands of denial, or the Nile, okay? In the lower lands of the Nile, where Moses tried to take over, they got their asses kicked out of there because they're nothing but evil, wicked scums who have made a pact with death. And life always is victorious over death. That is the true and natural order. It may take a long time and a lot of life growing up on top of a lot of death, but eventually life gets sick and tired of those who are bringing the death.